Hello, my dear children. Welcome back to our channel where we share with you the most amazing stories from around the world. Hello, my dear children. Welcome back to our channel where we share with you the most amazing stories from around the world. Stories that will inspire you, make you think, and bring a smile to your face. So today's story is called The Carrot and the Rock. There was once a little bunny named Benny, who lived in a cozy burrow with his family. Benny was a very impatient bunny. He always wanted things to happen right away. Didn't like waiting at all. One day, Benny was hopping around the meadow when he saw something that made his tummy rumble with hunger. A juicy, fresh carrot growing in the garden of Farmer Joe. Now, Benny loved carrots more than anything else in the whole wide world. So without wasting a moment, he dashed across the field towards his yummy prize. But there was a problem. The carrot was buried deep under a big, heavy rock. And no matter how much Benny pushed and shoved, he just couldn't move it. "Oh, this is so unfair," Benny cried. "I want that carrot so badly, but I can't get it out from under the rock." Just then, an old and wise turtle named Shelley ambled past. She had been watching Benny struggle, and she couldn't help but feel sorry for him. So she said in her slow, calm voice, "Little Benny, why don't you come back tomorrow? The rock might be easier to move after a good night's sleep." But Benny just couldn't understand why he had to wait. All he wanted was that carrot. So he replied in a huff, "I don't want to wait, I want it now." With that, he hopped away, feeling disappointed and grumpy. The next day, Benny came back to the rock, but it was just as heavy and immovable as before. Again, he huffed and puffed, but no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't budge it. Feeling upset, he sat down beside the rock and noticed a tiny sprout poking out from beneath it. It was the carrot, and it seemed to be mocking him with its juicy, crunchy self. "I won't give up," Benny declared. And every day after that, he came back to the rock and pushed it with all his might. Sometimes he would sit and dig with his little paws, but most days he would just push the rock a little and then hop away. Weeks went by, and one day Benny returned to the meadow. He had missed the carrot so much that he was so happy to see it again. As he approached, he noticed that the rock had moved a little. It wasn't much, but Benny's heart started racing with excitement. Could it be? He pushed the rock again, and this time it rolled away, tumbling down the hill with a loud crash. There, underneath, was the carrot, looking just as delicious as Benny had remembered. Overjoyed, he quickly nibbled it, savoring its sweet, crunchy taste. It was the most delicious carrot he had ever eaten in his whole life. As Benny hopped back to his burrow, he couldn't stop smiling. He had finally got his prize, and it had been worth all the waiting. He thought about how grumpy and impatient he had been all those weeks, and he realized that if he hadn't waited and tried again and again, he wouldn't have got his yummy treat. From that day on, Benny was a changed bunny. He learned that patience was a very important quality. It helped him wait for the things he wanted and not give up, even when he felt like it was taking too long. He also understood that sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for. Once upon a time, in a lush green forest nestled between rolling hills, there lived a little squirrel named Sammy. Sammy was known throughout the forest for his bushy tail and his endless curiosity. Every day, he would scamper up tall trees and peek into the nests of birds, asking a million questions about their feathers and songs. One crisp autumn morning, Sammy was busy gathering acorns for the winter when he stumbled upon a peculiar sight. Half hidden under a blanket of fallen leaves was a shiny silver coin. It was the brightest thing Sammy had ever seen. And without thinking twice, he snatched it in his mouth and raced up the nearest tree. From his branch, he surveyed his newfound treasure, feeling like the luckiest squirrel in the forest. But as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Sammy's excitement turned into worry. You see, Sammy had never seen a coin before, and he didn't know what it was or where it had come from. Suddenly, a wise old owl hooted softly from a nearby tree. Sammy, startled, dropped the coin and watched as it glinted in the fading light. "What's that strange object you're holding, little squirrel?" the owl asked, tilting his head. Sammy hesitated, unsure how to explain. "I found it lying on the ground," he replied, "but I don't know what it is." The owl, with his keen eyesight, swooped closer and examined the coin. "Why, that, my young friend, is a coin," he said. "It's used by humans as a form of exchange for goods and services. Sammy's eyes widened. "Oh, so it must be really valuable," he exclaimed. The owl nodded. "Indeed. If you were to trade it with the right person, you could get a whole loaf of bread with it." At the thought of owning a whole loaf of bread, Sammy's heart skipped a beat. He'd never tasted bread before, and the idea of it being so easily obtainable filled him with excitement. However, as the night wore on, Sammy's thoughts turned to his fellow squirrels. He knew they were struggling to gather food for the coming winter. Could he really keep the coin for himself when his friends and family needed it so badly? With a heavy heart, Sammy climbed down the tree and returned to the forest floor. He looked around to make sure no one was watching, and then the quick rustle buried the coin in a secret spot under a pile of leaves. As the days grew colder and the snow began to fall, Sammy's thoughts often drifted to the hidden coin. He struggled with feelings of greed, knowing what it could have bought him, but also with guilt for keeping it from his community. Finally, one particularly snowy afternoon, Sammy couldn't bear the weight of his secret any longer. He dug up the coin and set off in search of someone who could help him. On his journey, he met a wise old turtle who, after hearing Sammy's tale, suggested he speak with a human, a creature Sammy had always been afraid of. But desperate for help, he followed the turtle's advice and soon found himself at the edge of a nearby village. With a deep breath, Sammy scurried up the side of a house and peeked through a window. Inside, a kind-faced woman was sitting at a table knitting a warm scarf. Mustering all his courage, Sammy knocked on the glass. The woman gasped when she saw the tiny squirrel, but she quickly poured some nuts into a dish and left it outside for him. Sammy, feeling grateful, brought the nuts back to his fellow squirrels. They shared it among themselves, and it was the most delicious meal they had tasted all winter. News of the generous squirrel spread. Soon people from all over the village were leaving food and treats for Sammy and his friends. No longer did they have to worry about the harsh winter. As the snow melted and the spring flowers bloomed, Sammy realized that helping others was the greatest treasure of all. He learned that while money could bring comfort, sharing and kindness brought true happiness. From that day on, Sammy continued to live a life full of generosity, always remembering the importance of helping those in need. We hope you enjoyed this delightful tale about Sammy the squirrel. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more enchanting stories. We've got plenty more adventures waiting for you. Until next time, keep being kind and helping those in need, because you never know what treasures you might find.